I would also just add, you mentioned it. I mean, we're above $5 billion of inflows into Bitcoin ETFs this month, and it's very early. That puts us on pace for this to be by far the best month for Bitcoin ETFs. I think we're going to see record flows in October. I think we're going to see record flows in Q4. I think this year's flows will be bigger than last year's flows. I think it's accelerating, Scott, because we just turned on Morgan Stanley. Wells Fargo is gearing up. Those are big pools of assets. I posted yesterday or a few days ago on X, I think this will eventually get to be $1 trillion ETF category. And I don't think that's absurd. We're at a couple hundred billion now. I think price is going up, flows are accelerating. I do think this will be $1 trillion category.
Bitcoin isn't just rising. It's roaring as record inflows, institutional demand, and the debasement trade push it to the center of the global financial spotlight. Matt Hougan, a leading voice in the crypto and ETF space, believes the debasement trade is unfolding in real time, and Bitcoin is at the center of it. As alternative metals rally, he sees that momentum spilling directly into Bitcoin and Ethereum, fueled by investors eager to hold the year's hottest assets heading into year-end. Just like last year's Nvidia rush, gold, Bitcoin, silver, and Ethereum are becoming the must-own positions for 2025 portfolios. This isn't just sentiment, it's showing up in the numbers. According to CoinShares, digital asset investment products drew record inflows in the week ending October 4th, with the U.S. leading at $5 billion. Bitcoin alone captured $3.55 billion, setting the stage for its next leg higher. On October 5th, Bitcoin surged past its August peak to hit a new all-time high of $126,223, underlining the strength of institutional demand. Matt emphasizes that with giants like Morgan Stanley and Wells Fargo joining the party, ETF flows could push this market toward the $1 trillion mark. As more investors add exposure year after year, Hougan calls it a one-way train for Bitcoin ETF growth, one that's only just leaving the station. If you found this analysis valuable, hit like, subscribe, and share it with other investors tracking the market. We aim to bring you clear insights and expert perspectives on the forces shaping crypto, helping you stay ahead in a rapidly evolving landscape. Thank you for following along.
The world is screaming at you that the debasement trade is real and it's happening. And we're getting this like alt metal rally, which you called out, Scott. I think absolutely that spills over into Bitcoin. That spills over into Ethereum. I think it's going to lift those markets. I will say, you know, one reason I think this is just going to accelerate into year end, at least for the audience I serve, is the audience I serve loves to paint their portfolios at year end. They want to sit down with clients and show them that they held the hottest trade of the year. Last year, they all bought Nvidia at the year end because they wanted it on their end of year statements. This year, they're all going to want to own gold, Bitcoin, silver, Ethereum. I think you're going to see those flows accelerate. We're seeing that in Bitcoin ETFs, as you hinted at. So, of course, yeah, the debasement trade is the trade of the quarter. And you ain't seen nothing yet. It is the most crypto thing ever to wait 15 years to get generic listing standards that let us launch ETF and then have the government shut down for an interminable period. I mean, you really couldn't have written that script. The answer to your question, Scott, is nuanced. There are some ETFs in traditional wrappers that can go auto effective or that can move forward toward launch without official government blessing, but most of them require work. So things like crypto equity ETFs can continue to march forward. But many of the other ETFs require back and forth with the government. And it's not that it's impossible to get things to launch, but it sure is a lot easier and a lot less risky for issuers if it can go back and forth with the government. They can't come back and say, you should have made these disclosures, et cetera. So it complicates our lives. Yeah, I sort of can't believe it. I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, obviously I can't speak to that specific filing, but broadly speaking, yeah, most investors want to stake their assets. And so you'll see ETFs that allow staking on virtually everything. For what it's worth, there are some investors that for interesting tax reasons don't necessarily want to stake. And I think you may see non-staking ETFs as well. There'll be a fraction of the size of staking ETFs. But yeah, do you want Solana staking yield or ETH staking yield along with your Solana or ETH? I do. So I
Matt,
think we're going to see people do that. I definitely agree with the percentage of assets that are staked will significantly go up, right? You think about what BlackRock and others have done on the Bitcoin side. You look at the flows into Ethereum ETFs, they're clearly accelerating. So a lot of those are going to be locked up and staked in a way that they weren't necessarily in the past. How much that influences inflation, I think I'll leave to the Ethereum experts and how dynamic that relationship. Yeah, I think that's really true. I think your base assumption should be the future is more grindy than it is God candles. I think that is what happens when you get this large explosion in the derivatives market. I would also just add, you mentioned it. I mean, we're above $5 billion of inflows into Bitcoin ETFs this month, and it's very early. That puts us on pace for this to be by far the best month for Bitcoin ETFs. I think we're going to see record flows in October. I think we're going to see record flows in Q4. I think this year's flows will be bigger than last year's flows. I think it's accelerating, Scott, because
it's October for flows. Price.
it's October for
damned.
flows. We just turned on Morgan Stanley. Wells Fargo is gearing up. Those are big pools of assets. I posted yesterday or a few days ago on X. I think this will eventually get to be $1 trillion ETF category. And I don't think that's absurd. We're at a couple $100 billion now. I think price is going up. Flows are accelerating. I do think this will be $1 trillion category. I mean, that's what ETFs do. They do more flows year 2 than year 1, more flows year 3 than year 2. Eventually we'll get to, $100 billion flow year. I just don't see any reason to expect that to slow down. I'll point out something so obvious, but people overlook about ETF flows. If you ask any Bitcoin investor, did they buy all of the Bitcoin they hold today the first time they bought Bitcoin? The answer is no. So even just the people who bought it last year are probably going to buy more than they did last year, this year, and then more again the next year. That's what we all did. So I think it's a one-way train. If you remember when oil traded for negative, that was because of a mismatch between physical oil and the futures market. I do think that is a benefit of Bitcoin. You can't have that because you can teleport it around the world.
The next big buyer of Bitcoin may not be Wall Street. It could be entire governments stepping onto the blockchain stage. Matt Hougan believes the next major wave of Bitcoin adoption may come not just from institutions, but from governments themselves. He draws a clear parallel between today's skepticism towards sovereign Bitcoin adoption and the doubts once cast on financial advisors, hedge funds, and pensions entering the space. Each time, early adopters led the way, followed by exponential growth. With countries like Luxembourg already making allocations through their sovereign wealth funds, Hougan argues it's only a matter of time before more nations follow suit. He also notes that the market is underestimating this shift, treating the probability as zero when it's significantly greater than zero. This growing narrative comes amid global economic shifts, where gold's rally and China's strategic moves away from dollar dominance may push other governments to view Bitcoin as a reserve asset. Such a move would act as a powerful, unpriced catalyst for the market. While Bitcoin leads the charge, other assets are emerging. Ethereum dominates tokenization, while Solana is an agile challenger with greater upside. In a world where sentiment moves trillions and wealth flows into digital assets, Bitcoin remains the anchor of this new financial era. Let's get back to the interview.
Well, we can take it from here, Yaga, while Scott works on that. I mean, I think that the thing I've been thinking about on this this government side, what this story is talking about is that these governments have all seized Bitcoin. They're going to convert them into reserves. This has happened so many times in crypto's history where people are skeptical of a category of crypto investors. They were skeptical of financial advisors. They were skeptical of hedge funds. They were skeptical of pensions. They were skeptical of endowments. They're skeptical of governments. And then time and again, what we see is there's a few early pioneers and they follow this exponential growth curve. And then you wake up. And today, many financial advisors allocate, many family offices allocate, many hedge funds allocate. Endowments and pensions are further along that curve. They're now, Harvard is allocating. It's not rare, but it's not common. Governments are doing the same thing, right? A similar story. We saw Luxembourg make an allocation from its sovereign wealth fund. I see no reason to imagine the growth in government holdings of Bitcoin aren't following that same exponential growth curve that we've seen in every category of investor. I just don't understand where the skepticism come from. And I think, next year we're going to see purchases by, I don't know, a dozen countries. I don't see why we would imagine we would get anything but that looking at the track record.
Taken positions in crypto related corporations, the next step is for them to start taking positions in the assets themselves.
Yeah, this is a real thing. It's 6 a.m. here in California. I've already done a call with a government entity looking at Bitcoin today. So this is a story that really is happening, and I think people who are skeptical of it aren't seeing the inside. It's going to take time to play out, but I do think we'll see even those larger funds, as Yago mentioned, move into this over time. My view of it is that the market is pricing that possibility at zero, and I don't think the possibility is zero. So I think it's a positive catalyst. On my screen right now is another article from Bloomberg. Gold's rally is helping China build a world less dependent on Trump and the dollar. I think there's a possibility that those sort of headlines push the administration into acquiring Bitcoin as an alternative. I don't think that's a zero chance. It may not be the base case, but I do think the market is writing it off to zero. And that's been, there's that story. You can imagine the administration looking at that shining, glittering picture and the word China and wondering how it's going to take a run at this. I don't think that's a crazy conspiracy idea. So I think the probability that we buy Bitcoin is significantly greater than zero. Maybe it's not the base case, but I don't think it's priced in at all into 100.
Way higher than zero and completely not priced in.
I am continually shocked. You tweeted the Citigroup interview with CNBC, Scott. Citigroup is saying, people are so happy to turn to Bitcoin as this steady asset and not chase the crazy momentum-driven trade in equities. I mean, it's unbelievable. Like it felt like an April Fool's. The real truth is, I don't know which asset will win. Ethereum has the dominant position, the dominant share of stablecoins and tokenization. It has the best shot on goal, but Solana has an incredibly compelling technology that which processes transactions in a blink of an eye. It's the challenger asset, and it is architected to serve that market. The way I invest in it is I own both of them. I think the market is so huge, I think they will both win. But Ethereum is the dominant player. Solana is the challenger. The thing about the Solana that's really attractive right now is it's 1/5 the size of ETH. And as institutions start rotating into this stablecoin and tokenization trade, I think they're going to buy both. And money buying both will have a greater impact on a smaller asset. So I don't think it's the market is telling you, it's not the base case assumption that Solana will win. It's a challenger asset. But I think its chance of winning is greater than zero, and it's a small asset. So it has, yes. Also, a derivative of this that people don't think about is a lot of the world's wealthy people are going to be crypto investors. That's already true, but it's going to be really true. And that means Wall Street is going to be oriented towards serving them. Lobbying is going to be oriented towards supporting them. There is a virtuous circle to that. And I think that chart is one way of showing that that's true.
Bitcoin's rise is being fueled by a powerful mix of institutional inflows, shifting government strategies, and mounting macroeconomic pressures. As global tensions grow and policymakers embrace loose fiscal policies, investors are increasingly turning to hard assets to shield against currency debasement. Bitcoin stands out as a liquid, borderless, and increasingly mainstream alternative to traditional stores of value. With the debasement trade accelerating, its role is shifting from a speculative bet to a core strategic asset. Supported by both institutional confidence and potential sovereign interest, Bitcoin is positioned not just to benefit from the changing landscape but to shape how capital is allocated in the years ahead. Could Bitcoin become the go-to hedge against global currency debasement as institutional and government interest continues to grow? Stay tuned for more updates. If you appreciate clear, data-driven insights on the financial markets, make sure to like and subscribe to catch our weekly breakdowns. Thank you for your support and enjoy the video.